So nothing happens without money in your pocket. If you haven't got money to invest and you're retiring and you wonder if you're going to outlive your money and you're worried, then best thing to do is deal with it up front. And talking to an expert who knows how to capitalize on what you've saved and kept in your pocket so far is Darren Farwell of the Farwell Group. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning, Marilyn.
So last Saturday you shared a happy story that illustrated how to save substantive probate fees and taxes by using a multiple will approach. And I'd never heard of that approach before. And I'm looking forward to another happy story and seeing if you can make my jaw drop again. Can you?
Well, I hope to, Marilyn. I do have a happy story about someone who well, you know what's that? We talk about you don't know what you don't know. And I was able to provide some information for somebody, and she seemed very happy about it. I'm also thinking of my father today on Father's Day. He's not that close by, so I won't be able to visit. And I've got my fingers crossed that my kids will be perhaps visiting me on Father's Day.
I'm sure everything I've heard about you, you're a wonderful dad. They'll come out of their way. Happy Father's Day, by the way.
Thank you, Marilyn. Well, I was at a charity gala a few months ago. It was one of the really good ones. It was short on speeches and long on good food and good music and dancing. Now, true to form at these social events in Toronto, one of the first questions when you meet somebody, in this case it was a woman, is, what do you do? And I said, well, one of the important things we do is help women in transition navigate their journey forward. Now, frankly, that transition often happens as a result of death or divorce. But there are other transitions, such as retirement, being downsized from a senior executive position, and selling your business often happens. So we talked about her job and her family and her work at the charity. She did a lot of work for this charity. Well, the evening ended, and it wasn't too long afterwards that I received a call from another woman, Susan, who informed me that her friend, the woman I had met at the gala, had referred her to me. As it turns out, Susan had been working through a transition for years. Susan is a widow in her late 70s. Her husband had passed away 4 years ago. Now, obviously, Susan had been managing very well from all appearances. She looked great. She was very active with the charity and then the university. So she was doing very well. However, when her friend told her about our personal checklist process, which includes a detailed review of all of the tasks, big and small, that have to be looked after, well, at least considered, as part of this period of transition, Susan decided to reach out and see whether she in fact had all the T's properly crossed and the I's properly dotted. As we worked through our checklist for her, it was clear she had done a lot of exactly the right things, but at the same time there were some gaping holes. Susan had updated her will after her husband's death, but she did so without serious consideration of some of the complications. Here's what stood out. She had her sister named as her executor for her will, but her sister lives in Saskatchewan now, and in fact her sister is a number of years older than her, so that raises two issues right away. Number one, when Susan ultimately passes away, is her sister going to A, be there, and B, be confidently reliable with all of the duties and roles of the executor to do a good job as an executor? I can assure you, unlike 3 or 4 decades ago, that the job of an executor is very complicated. There are a lot of things that have to be done. So you really want someone quite capable and confident in doing that. Number two, on top of that, her sister is currently living, as I said, in Saskatchewan. That's out of province. And having an executor who's out of province can create lots of problems and holdups in the estate settlement process. It's important to have executors that reside in the same province or jurisdiction as the will be settled in. But we're not done. One of the important parts of our checklist is to ensure you have a capable, effective power of attorney for financial assets. If, while alive, for any reason, Susan becomes incapable of making decisions about her investments, her money, her bank accounts, paying bills, but really doesn't have the ability to do that, who's going to step in to help? she actually didn't have anybody named as power of attorney for financial assets. And here's the thing we found out. It's one of the reasons why she hadn't done anything about her sister or having a power of attorney for financial assets. She didn't know who to turn to. She just didn't know who could help. Her husband was gone. Her parents were gone. At one time, she had an older brother around. He was gone. She actually has a son who lives in Singapore. Lovely family there, great job, but Singapore is too far away. She didn't know who to turn to. So I introduced her to the trust and estate expert on my team. And together we discussed the opportunity of having the trust company act as the executor and power of attorney for financial assets. The advantage is, of course, the trust company is reliable. They know what they're doing. They're going to be there for the long term. And one of the big benefits is that the trust company is there throughout her lifetime. So at any time she has questions or needs help, she can phone the trust company and ask them, and there's no cost for doing that. And there's no obligation. The trust company will act as executor on death. So, none of this stuff is for free. There is a cost. At the end of the day, the cost is borne by the estate. And Susan really felt confident that the trust company being there for her was the right choice. So the benefit to Susan was she doesn't pay while she's alive. She has someone to work with during her lifetime, and she has the confidence that things will be looked after properly after her death.
Wow, you did make my jaw drop.
Yes? Why is that?
Well, because I know so many people who end up isolated and alone. Even as you said, she has a son, but he's in Singapore. Sometimes family disputes happen. You don't have someone to rely on, or your children aren't as capable as you'd like them to be, and you want to look after things. And I never heard about the trust and estate expert in your team, or that would be a possibility. And really, when you're dealing with financial assets, it is about numbers, and you're mentioning that there's a personal part to it. So she can call and ask her questions, get her answers, and sort of be part of this driving force of what happens to her money and herself, right?
Yeah, it's almost like an advisor for her for the rest of her life without actually costing any money. And for people who are thinking about, I mentioned the executor can be a complicated job. If people are wondering just what that job of an executor entails, we have an executor checklist. And by reviewing the executor checklist, you can see all the things that are involved in executing the duties of an executor. And so if anyone would like a copy of that executor checklist, we're happy to put a copy in the mail for them.
So if someone wants that, they can call your office, and if they want a complimentary consultation, everyone is unique and different. And, at the beginning you said that you help women in transition navigate their life going forward. But I think it happens to men too, maybe even more so, because women are so used to looking after themselves, and men, when they lose a spouse, don't have that person looking after them. So the reverse would work. So executor checklist or a complimentary consultation, or both, with Darren Farwell and the Farwell Group. And there's a whole team of experts, so you aren't just listening to what good little brain Darren has on his head and all his experience. You have a whole team of experts so that they can have their input and give you answers so you can retire on your own terms. And so I think your money can work best for you. So Darren, are you going to work today?
Well, in fact, I'm not going to work because I'm going to meet a few people to talk about some of these issues this morning.
So this phone call you can leave a message, and then Darren will get back to you next week. I have the number 416-863-7501. That's 416-863-7501. You can have a personal GPS to your retirement and sleep at night. And if you're alone, know that you're not alone, because there are experts and ways to catch and be the safety net to what you want to do with your life. And Darren Farwell, the Farwell Group, is there for you as well. And I really thank you, Darren, because it is significant. A lot of people sort of are winging it on their own, and they would like to have a safety net. And this is a very good way of doing it. So an executor checklist is yours for the asking, and more importantly, information that's personal to you is there for the asking. 416 863-7501. Don't sit back and worry. Take charge of your life. Be proactive and know there are answers out there, and they're specific to you if you ask the questions. Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome, Marilyn.